Three, two, one, and here we go. Hello, everyone. Welcome to Brand Talkies, the PT show, your favorite space for insightful conversations about branding, content, and all things marketing. Today, we have an extraordinary guest joining us. Her name is Colleen Jones. She's a content expert, Star Wars fan, Mensa member, and the mastermind behind the award winning content. Colleen has worked with some of the biggest names from MailChimp to AT&T, and here she is to talk about her latest book, The Content Advantage. Colleen, welcome to the show. It's truly a pleasure to have you here with us today.
Thanks so much, Tamana. It's a pleasure to be here. Really excited to talk content and brand and all kinds of other fun things with you.
Definitely, I'm sure listeners will have a lot to learn in this conversation, especially the AI front, which I'm really excited about. All right, before we dive into the serious stuff, let's start with few fun questions to get to know you better. To start with, since you are a big Star Wars fans, the first question I have for you is if you had to pick a Star Wars character to lead a content strategy campaign, who would it be and why?
This is a very tough question.
All of them are
I'm
your favorite.
I'm torn between Yoda because Yoda is very wise, has a lot of experience, a lot that you could draw from for a content strategy campaign. But I think I would end up picking Princess slash General Leia
Wow.
because she is smart.
Mm-hmm.
She definitely has some of that Yoda quality, but she's also creative, courageous,
Yeah.
collaborative, and all of those things really come into play when you're thinking about and trying to both form and execute content strategy, especially at scale. And she's also full of hope, which is another good quality to have.
That's well needed. You get a lot of rejections all the time. Awesome. Coming to the next question. What's one unexpected place you have found inspiration from for your content ideas?
This is an interesting question. I actually have two places that I felt were equally odd. So I'll mention both briefly. One place of inspiration is sewing and embroidery, and that comes from my mom. She's amazingly talented
Mm-hmm.
at making quilts, sewing, all kinds of different embroidered textiles. And something that she would often mention is that she would try to make the back of embroidery, especially, as neat as the front.
Mm-hmm.
So the front looks amazingly beautiful. The back should look almost as good. It shouldn't look like a big mess.
Mm-hmm.
And that's inspired me to think about what's going on behind the scenes with content,
Yeah.
as much as the actual content assets themselves and what customers experience there. It's
Yeah.
all very important.
It's a great inspiration to pick from, and I don't know if someone would have ever thought about it as well. So great idea, to be honest.
And the other odd place is industrial automation. This comes from my dad.
Mm-hmm.
He's electrical engineer and kind of a pioneer of industrial automation, looking at how to bring even more automation to different facilities, factories, and so on. And so that has inspired me to think about what could be automated when it comes to executing content, when it comes to scaling content operations, things like that. So yeah, those two places have been probably the strangest sources of inspiration for me.
Oh, that's such a great ideas to actually look up to. And I think most of the people would have just thought about it and they'll be like, how can I actually use it in my day-to-day life? And you came up with such a beautiful ideas around it. It's amazing to know. In fact, I have something to show you. This is what my sister
Ooh,
created for me on my birthday. These are two sunflowers made with clothes.
beautiful.
Yeah, exactly. She knows that I love sunflowers, so she created these for me. This is so good, right?
Yeah. Oh my gosh, that's incredible. Those
Yeah.
are gorgeous.
Yeah. So I've told her now I'll place an order for an entire bouquet. You just get me one. Coming to the next question. If you could invent a piece of tech to solve one big content problem, what would it be?
I've been fortunate enough to create an application called ContentWorks that gets at where I'd really love to solve content problems. Doesn't completely solve the problem, but it's a good start. It helps address evaluating content effectiveness at scale. And I would love to build on that, expand it, enhance it to really make it a lot easier for an organization and individuals within an organization to understand the impact of their content
Right.
and have it be much less painful, time consuming,
Mhm.
much clearer instead of leaving people with more questions
Right.
than answers. And I'd love to do more automation
Yeah.
of the advanced analysis, like looking for correlations between what's happening with content and what's happening with the brand or the business. That's where you can draw some really powerful insights and show over time how content is really making a difference to the brand or a business bottom line.
Amazing. Adding the business angle to the content is something that everyone wants in today's AI savvy world. I'm sure the next questions will really help the listeners to understand more about how they can utilize it better as well. Thanks a lot, Colin. Now, let's shift gears and talk about the content advantage and your fascinating insights on content, AI, and marketing. So, since I would love to know about your book, the content at one, the brief that I had got, I thought that I'll share it with the team as well. Your book, The Content Advantage, talks about how AI is reshaping the content landscape, right? Can you share one major opportunity AI brings to content strategy and one pitfall brands should avoid in this current tech savvy world and people where we have no idea what would be the next gig that will happen in content, especially ChatGPT is everywhere. People have been utilizing it. Some people don't have that kind of clarity. So would really love to know your insights on that.
Yeah, absolutely. In terms of the opportunity, what I'm most excited about for brands, large organizations is scaling. I think AI is really the answer to a lot of the scaling problems many organizations have been
Right.
experiencing. There's a lot of pressure to support the
Mm-hmm.
end-to-end customer experience. There's a lot of need to have brand apply to all content, not just the marketing campaign content, but to have brand really infused everywhere at every touch point. And also, every company business is
Mm-hmm.
trying to scale, trying to grow, trying to expand, trying to introduce more products or more features or expand into new markets. And all that requires content.
Right.
So I think the power of AI to help with adding automation, automating quality checks,
Mm-hmm.
bringing in more efficiency to content operations, all of those things are really exciting about AI. And one example that I like is Pfizer. They actually have said publicly that they've, you know, really reduced by 50% how long it takes to produce content for go to market
Yeah.
for, say, a new drug, a new vaccine, whatever the case might be.
Right.
So AI was part of it. That wasn't the entire solution, but AI played a role in that. And I think that's what the big opportunity is. And then in terms of pitfalls, I think obviously there are a lot of smaller pitfalls, problems that you can run into, but probably the biggest that I think is really important to avoid is what I call treating AI like a panacea. So treating it like it's going to solve all of your problems magically. It's not a brand fairy or a content fairy with a magic wand that's going to solve all the challenges and problems. It's a technology, it's a tool that can be part of a solution. And what I especially see in content is thinking that AI or other technology will solve problems that really are people problems, like not having the right roles or having silos and breakdowns in communications or lack of ownership or leadership around certain content, or process problems like the workflow is unclear or it's not documented or there is no process. Things are chaotic. I can't solve those kinds of things. So thinking that AI is a panacea is a big pitfall.
As you rightly said, it's very important to bridge a gap between an AI and a human, right? With all these
Yes.
practices. So yeah, great to know these insights. All right, since you have worked with some of the world's biggest organizations like MailChimp, AT&T, what's one common mistake businesses make when trying to scale their content operations? Especially in now, since you gave an example of Pfizer as well, they have been utilizing it well. And for them, it makes a lot of sense. But what about other industries? How do you see?
Yeah, absolutely. So I've been lucky to work with a variety of companies and organizations, both before starting content science and in my role at content science. And so worked across all the major industries, I feel like. And there's obviously their goals are different, but a lot of these needs to scale and to become more efficient and to strengthen the brand through content and things like that are in common.
Mhm.
And I would say it's tough to pick just one mistake, but one very common one I see is accumulating content debt. And especially see this with
Mhm.
brands, organizations that are more established, they've been around
Mhm.
for a while.
Yeah.
And so there are lots of outdated assets that
Like,
are taking up resources to manage. There's been no effort to manage the life cycle of those so they're not archived and deleted. People
right.
forget who owns what.
Mhm.
There's been reorganizations. It might have been clear in the past who was responsible for what content, but now roles have changed, people have left,
Mhm.
and it's unclear. Another example of content debt is unstructured content that can't be easily reused across channels,
Right.
can't really be easily be personalized
Mhm.
across touch points, and some of the capabilities that really are needed in modern marketing
Yeah.
communications and experiences.
Mhm.
And then related to that, another area of content debt I often see that hinders
Mhm.
content operations is undocumented workflows
Right.
that, of course, can't easily be automated. And we just did some research recently in highly regulated industries like pharmaceuticals, manufacturing, financial services, and so on. And the lack of clarity around workflows is one of the top pain points, one of the top hindrances to scaling content operations. And along with that, being able to use
Mhm.
AI and advanced automation. So accumulating that content debt
Mhm.
is a big hindrance to content operations.
Wow, these are really valid points, to be honest. And after listening to them, I really feel people should do something about it.
I like the way you think.
No, definitely they should do something about it because no one has ever created a software or a platform to resolve this. Great, valid, new business idea alert, guys. Please
I
go.
like it. Yes. We are
Yeah,
solving the world's problems right here.
yeah.
Love it.
Exactly. This podcast is rather than content resources, it has now turned into idea generator. It's casual conversations and brainstorming sessions that lead to it. Okay,
Yes.
since you are an AI pro, I have another question for you. So AI tools like ChatGPT have become a game changer for content creation. Do you think professionals can use AI tools effectively for writing high quality content while maintaining the authenticity? I would love some examples here if you have something in your head that you would like to share.
Yeah, yeah. So you bring up two important requirements there. There's the high quality and there's the authenticity. And they're related, of course,
Mm-hmm.
but one way to think about it is to break them down in terms of quality to really ensure what you're using, say, a tool like ChatGPT or Claude to create is quality.
Mm-hmm.
Still likely will need to have some manual review, just accommodate that.
Mm-hmm.
It's obviously you're still saving a lot of time and effort potentially by leveraging a tool like that, but just letting it run rampant with no review introduces that risk of, oh, there are going to be some quality issues. So
Yeah.
counting on some manual review. Also, especially if you're thinking of doing this at scale, might need to leverage another tool to help with the
Mm-hmm.
quality assurance. So probably need to plan on kind of a set of tools or a stack of tech, not just one AI tool for the longer term. As an example, deep learning AI, like what ChatGPT and Claude use, they're bad at math. Like they're not good at math. Machine learning
Mm-hmm.
is better at that type of thing, or just straight automation. So if the content that you're working with involves numbers, you'll need to be extra careful
Mm-hmm.
and likely need to use a different tool. If inclusive language, plain language, and if ESG, some of those things are really important to your brand or important to commitments that you've made, then having a specialized tool that can help with flagging
Mm-hmm.
for those kinds of issues also might be good to consider. And
Right.
then for authenticity, really being true to your brand,
Mm-hmm.
think about documenting that brand voice and style
Mm-hmm.
even more so than it might be documented now,
Right.
and use that to train ChatGPT or Claude or whatever tool.
Mm-hmm.
And that will help, you know, for your manual review, think something that is at a much better starting point than if you didn't train the
Yeah.
tool on your brand voice and style. Now, this might sound obvious, but I find that um, brand guides have very high level, vague guidance on voice. So chances are to really get at that authenticity, there'll be some work to do to get a bit more detailed with that guidance and some iteration that you'll need to take with the AI tool to get the tone and some of the nuances of voice to be really where you want it to be.
Right. No, definitely it makes a lot of sense, especially from an authenticity point of view. And a lot of people actually tend to ignore that. And considering there are brands who are being associated with something like this might not be a concern right now, but for the later times to come, I think that this might be flagged as well going forward if there's a content like that comes suddenly out of the blue, which has been utilized by some other companies on a similar note, where you were just using ChatGPT to find that answer and it was same, and whatever content you used on that particular platform was actually same. So I can't even imagine if there's a situation like that. And while people have been using it aggressively, just I don't know how will this go, or if the entire algorithm is based on your own set of personalization, that's totally on the people. But I'm a bit scared about it, to be honest, in terms of authenticity.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely spot on. There are a lot of potential implications, and I think this also is just another reason why having a distinct voice and being true to it, really striving for authenticity, will
Yeah,
separate the really successful brands and companies, because there's more and more noise out there, and a clear, distinct voice that really feels authentic, that can be a signal. It can really stand out. So, but yes, a lot to consider and still work through and experiment with, to your point.
definitely. I hope you come up with some magical words to solve this.
Work on it.
All right. Since we are having fun in terms of collaboration, and your book has a big theme in terms of collaboration as well. So, can you share a practical tip for fostering better collaboration between teams like marketing, product, and design to create impactful content? Because
Sure.
storytelling is a part of all of this, but how the internal teams should also inculcate the same in their culture is something I'm very passionate and interested in knowing as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Something super practical that can help with starting some good conversations, getting some good momentum going, is having something like a lunch and learn,
Hmm.
where there's maybe a brief training and some discussion on a relevant content or AI topic, and make sure that's opened up to the relevant folks across those teams, because you're spot on. Marketing, product, and design,
Hmm.
they're all affected by content. They have useful perspective to consider for content, and the more those kinds of teams can be aligned and working together, the better. Something that doesn't feel super formal or demanding or taxing because everyone is super busy,
Hmm.
like a lunch and learn training, can be a good way to open up conversations about content outside of, say, like a formal meeting or a formal review of content that's going into some marketing, product communications, and so on. And something that can be useful, that I find everyone's interested in, if you can get it, is some data or some insights about content in
Hmm.
your organization, or about content trends generally, or a mix. It just helps get everyone on the same page, on some common ground
Right.
about what's happening in and around content. So
Yeah,
that can be a good foundation for some productive conversations.
definitely. It makes a lot of sense. I have one last question for you. And this is again about your book, because I personally loved the whole brief that you shared with me. And I was like, I will ask so many questions about it. Now people will really like to buy it for sure. To the listeners, definitely it's a worth buying this book, and you'll have so much to learn in terms of the entire content gig. I'll definitely add that on the later note, but to the last question right now. Okay. In your book, you emphasize the importance of content governance, especially in the age of AI. What does good governance look like, and what is it that is crucial for organizations today? Because everyone talks about it, but no one understands the gist of it.
Yeah, I think that good governance is crucial
Mm.
to minimize the risks brought by scaling content operations with the help of AI. It's
Right.
always been important, but it's just crucial now. And those risks can range from introducing biased language to violating sustainability commitments to revealing sensitive
Right.
intellectual property. Just that's just scratching the surface. So
Yeah.
governance can also help with bringing consistency and authenticity, like we were talking about earlier, across the content that spans different touch points, different channels, different marketing experiences, and so on. Two big benefits of good governance. And so what I see in the organizations that seem to really have this down and really be benefiting from governance is they do have some kind of formal entity in place, like a center of excellence or a council, something along those lines that they can point to and say,
Right.
this is the group or the hub of content governance. And it covers things like standards, processes,
Mm-hmm.
maybe technology
Right.
selection, helping to facilitate that, as well as adoption, proper use
Mm-hmm.
of content related technology. Because if you're not using it effectively, it's not going to achieve the return on investment that you're looking for.
Right.
And then general like education training, I really like to include access to data, understanding impact of content as part of that.
Right.
And those are the elements of really good governance, like what the
Mm-hmm.
really advanced organizations are doing. And we helped Thomson Reuters
Mm-hmm.
stand up governance along those lines, especially for their content marketing efforts. And I've seen it firsthand
Mm-hmm.
be helpful and impactful. Yeah, I think as any organization is thinking about
Mm-hmm.
AI or scaling or both,
Mm-hmm.
thinking about governance really goes hand in hand with it.
Yeah, definitely valid points here. Again, one quick thing. Do you think heat maps actually add to the authenticity angle of the content where you're talking about content governance, for example, on any landing pages, if you know that how many users are actually engaging with that content, you can still consider it as a part of the governance thing, or no, it's the other way around.
So I love having any and all data available. So I would love to factor in heat maps and what you observe in the heat maps, say around landing pages to help support, reinforce
Mhm.
discussion of what content should go well, what messages should be prioritized where, design elements, and so on. And I think that it's especially useful if there's a kind of purpose and active use of those heat maps or whatever data that you got. Are you going to use that information to help inform maybe some different options to optimize the page? Are you going to use the heat maps to help with benchmarking? This is really great engagement performance for us, and anything else that we do moving forward needs to at least meet the standard or exceed it, and be able to compare that over time, really use that as a helpful benchmark. I think just having the heat maps available and not really doing anything with them or having a purpose for people looking at them, that isn't as effective as having
Data.
active governance, active evaluation, really taking a beat to look at, consider the data, make sense of it, and
Yeah.
decide what you're going to do about it.
Yeah, amazing. I think these were some really valuable insights. Colleen, thank you so much for joining us today and sharing your valuable insights. For everyone listening, don't forget to grab a copy of The Content Advantage. It's packed with actionable advice and examples to take your content strategy to the next level. You can order the copy now using the link in the description below. Colleen has also given us a special discount. So please don't forget to avail that. So thanks to her. And Colleen, any final words for our listeners?
Final words, think about AI driven, but content led transformation. Think about responding to AI, not just reacting, and making content a big part of your response.
Wow, that was short, sweet, and amazing. Thank you again, Colleen. And thanks to our listeners for tuning in to the Brand Talkies. Until next time, keep building your brand story with purpose and passion. See you next time.